don't know if you've ever heard the name Jack Cornfield before. He's an American writer and teacher specializing in the Vipassana movement. He said, "There is a web of life into which we are born and from which we can never fall." So this concept of the web of life has been used by multiple people around the world for quite a long time, but it's always been this purely abstract idea to represent all aspects of life and the multitude of threads that bind humanity, and also represent all the individual aspects of life, or what I call the elements, that make us. So, although the web of life, I have made it a visual philosophy, I'm going to do my best to explain it in a way that you can see it in your mind. And if you want to see it, as part of this episode, you'll get a QR code that will take you to my website where you can download the complete philosophy for free. It'll be sent to you as a PDF. But it's simple enough that if I explain it right, you should be able to see it in your mind. The beauty is, each individual person that I've ever introduced this to interacts with it themselves in their own individual way. And it depends on your perception. But funnily enough, when most people see the web of life for the first time, they read it in a circle, starting at the leftmost point. So if you were drawing a very basic spider's web, how would you go about it? You'd probably start with the addition sign or a plus, and then over the top of that, you'd draw the multiplication sign or the times. So if you imagine the plus and the times, you have the basic structure of the web of life. And although you can see them as 4 individual lines, and each of those lines in the web of life philosophy becomes a strand. Each of those parts that make up the line, they all congregate right in that center point. And in that center point, I want you to imagine the word you, or if it makes more sense, me or I. But I want you to keep in mind that this web is not only yours, but actually applies to everyone you know and anyone you will ever meet. That's the beauty of the web of life. It applies to us all. Like in The Lion King, but I'm going to remix it. We are all connected in the web of life. So, when people read it in a circle, because in the Western world anyway, we learn to read from left to right, everybody starts in that top left corner, and you find the word beliefs. Then next to that, childhood, relationships, energy, history, experiences, environment, and science. But that's not quite the way I would read it. And that's not the way it was particularly designed. That sort of shows you the 8 fundamental elements as standalone. And I always see people nodding as they're looking at it. Like, yes, beliefs, yes, childhood, yes, relationships. But these 8 fundamental elements are never just standalone. Each element shares the strand with another element. And those two have such a deep and complicated connection that you can't actually talk about one without talking about the other. For example, the time strand. That is beliefs and history. And I'm going to let you marinate in that for a minute and just think about all the connections between beliefs and history and beliefs. You can't really talk about one without the other. So if we're looking at you, if you look at yourself, if you were to tell me your beliefs, I'm kind of getting a crash course in your own history, because that's where your beliefs come from. To understand your beliefs as well, I also need to think about the history of your life with your family and your friends and all the people around you. Even if you zoom out and think about the world, you also start to look at how history has shaped some of the widely held beliefs that we have. Now that's the time strand. The one I call the super strand is childhood and experiences. This strand in particular has quite a lot of superpowers. And of all of the elements of life, childhood is probably the one that shapes us the most. It's arguable though, due to environment and relationships. But if you just think about how your experiences, even now, the way you perceive your experiences, are influenced by your childhood experiences, how many of your experiences today go back to childhood, how you might be living in the present and then flip back to an experience from your past, and a lot of it goes back to childhood. So that's why I call it the super strand. So what I call the foundation strand is relationships and environment. You cannot have a relationship without being in an environment. And no matter what your environment is, there is relationships within it. Even if you're just standing alone on a beach, you not only have your relationship with yourself, but you also have that relationship with nature. For some people, it's a positive experience. It's cathartic, it's therapeutic, it's healing. For some people, it's annoying. They can't stand the wind, they can't stand the smell and the salt in the air and the mess of the sand. They don't want to get wet. But the foundation strand is actually the importance of the foundation strand. If you just think about the first environment and the first relationship you ever had, it was before you were born. In the womb, you shared a biological environment with your mother, but it was also the first relationship you ever had. So the foundation strand not only looks at how relationships and environment are the foundation of all of our lives, but the foundation with which a lot of your childhood experiences and your beliefs, your personal history, all of that comes into play when we look at the foundation strand. And the last strand of the web of life is science and energy, and I call this the power strand. So whereas the other elements that I've introduced you to so far, they're the main ones that we get bugs in our lives. The power strand itself is kind of like the source. Science is our source of knowledge. It's our way to systematically understand all things. And energy is running through everything, everyone, everywhere, all at once. And so that strand comes up no matter which one you're talking about, because our understanding of all of the other elements comes from science, and energy is the power source that animates and brings everything to life. So in a nutshell, that's the web of life. The 8 fundamental elements and the 4 strands that make it up. Now, I kind of did it a little bit, but I'm going to introduce you to the little tool or the little trick that I use when I'm working with individuals, when I'm talking to people. It doesn't matter what the situation is. You need to be able to zoom out of yourself to be able to truly understand you and to understand the wider influences on who you are and how you became this way, but also the people around you. And so the little trick that I use that is part of the Web of Life philosophy is the 3 spheres.